Well, we often complain about the state of politics in Australia, the elites there in Canberra, the Canberra swamp who run the whole show. The Liberals in the past haven't been quite as strong as we would have liked them to have been. As a result, the Liberals have found themselves in some areas becoming irrelevant and unelectable, leaving a gaping hole in Australia's political landscape. How do we fix the problem? This is something I'm asked all the time. Well, joining us now to discuss this is the expelled New South Wales Liberal State Executive Member, Matthew Camenzuli. Matthew, welcome to Outsiders. Great to have you on. Now, you're expelled, you can tell us about that in a second, from the Liberal Party during the Morrison years. But you've recently become very active in promoting the idea of grassroots Conservative support for the Liberal Party and other parties not of the left. Talk us through it.
Well, look, I think it's very, very important, if people are unhappy right now with what they're seeing in the political landscape, that they step up and get involved, be a part of it. I mean, I myself was just a small business owner, didn't like the way things were headed many years ago, joined the party and ended up finding myself on the state executive and all of the other things that happened since. You can affect change, but you can't do it from outside. You have to do it from inside. I mean, it's outsiders and become an outsider. But at the end of the day, change must be affected from within. And there are more good people inside of the Liberal Party that believe in the Menzies We Believe statement, that want to see the party go back to its roots, go back to its core. And they do need more people to help them do that. It is a matter of numbers. It's a matter of people power. It really is. The system serves the members, or it must. Otherwise, the system breaks.
Rita.
Is it that simple, or are there restrictions? Because I keep hearing about people wanting to join and having applications rejected. It seems incredible that you've got the party, and it's not just the Liberal Party, it's also the National Party in many instances, where they are not representative of their voter base. The people getting pre-selected seem to belong sometimes in the wrong party altogether.
Sure. Look, I think there is certainly an element of political game playing that goes on within the organisation. But again, all of that can be fixed through membership. There's an AGM, for example, there's an AGM coming up at the end of February within the Liberal Party, where they'll get to choose who the state executive are, who the president is, all these sorts of things. And all of the Liberal Party's fortunes are downstream from the organisation. People don't see it. It's very, very important. But the organisation, the party, is who is in charge of pre-selections and can curate membership. And if you have the right people in the position of party president and state executive and all those sorts of things, you can really see a big change in the organisation. And it's starting to happen.
Okay, so let's talk about the New South Wales division of the Liberal Party, which is where I think an awful lot of people will look at and agree that there's a lot of things wrong, and some of the people that we've seen come up and rise in that, and the way that some people who we thought were quite sound and conservative got pulled to the left, that there's obviously some issues there. So how is it just simply that getting more people into the system is going to fix this? Because it seems you have a big problem with a lobbyist culture and a factional culture associated with that means that you have people looking at the party less as a way to push Menzies conservative principles and more as a way to, push ideas that most people in the grassroots, like renewable subsidies and all sorts of other nonsense and, woke stuff in the classrooms and so on. And again, also, Rita said the Nationals too, which in the state level have been taken over by a very sort of far left group of people who don't even live in the country.
Yeah, I think that was James's quick way of saying, how do we get the woke out of the Liberal Party?
Well, thank you, Rowan.
Yes. Look, I think that's a fantastic question. So membership is a big part of that. People need to join because it is a numbers game, and it really does have an impact. You can really put pressure on politicians from inside. But also, it's a matter of leadership and political courage at the top. Now, I think people like Peter Dutton are actually, a force for good in the party. We need to see more political courage. We need to see more strength at the top, driving that back down through the culture as well of the organisation.
This seems to be a fundamental problem with Conservatives in this country, because for every fighter, we seem to have dozens of these quislings who don't understand that politics is an adversarial game. With Labor, they're battle-hardened. They've gone through those factional wars. They like the fight. They're good at the fight. Whilst Conservatives seem to be better at governing than they are at actually politicking.
Yeah, look, I think what we saw with even the state government in New South Wales, for those that were following it, they thought they were an extension of the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
They were all, you start hearing them say words like peak body and all these other things. It's very, very difficult to hear as a passionate, committed, strong Liberal who believes that there are certain ideologies that made this country great. We need to really push. We almost have to push against the bureaucracy, against the machine. I mean, we saw with the voice vote, the ACT was 70%. 70%, yes. The whole rest of the country was no. They're so out of step. They're so lost. And just trying to pretend that you're somehow a captain or a part of being captured by that machine, all you're really doing is putting yourself out of business slowly. Australians don't want their Liberal Party to be Teals. They don't want their Liberal Party to be left wing. I think if I was to look at Scott Morrison's political epitaph, it would simply say, if you leave your friends to work with their enemies, you lose your friends and their enemies don't respect you.
100%, 100%.
It's that simple.
So you're telling people go and get involved. How literally can they do that? And how do they present themselves as Conservatives? How do they get in there and get a Conservative voice heard? We saw all the nonsense in the last election, which seemed to be Scott Morrison's fault, of pre-selection chaos in New South Wales in particular. Victoria, Rita will tell you, is a complete write-off. How do you get those Conservatives in there?
Well, I wouldn't want to get anyone in any trouble, but I've got a website that you can go to and register your,
tell us the details. No,
so
let's put it up on the screen. What is it?
Yeah, it's MatthewCamenzuli.com.
MatthewCamenzuli.com.
Yeah, if you go there, you will be able to essentially register yourself and tell us a bit about yourself, and we can help you navigate the silly hoops and loops that you might have to go through in order to get in. Because there is a certain culture in the organisation and it isn't as easy to get through, but if you have a little bit of knowledge and know some of the right people, which I may happen to do, you can certainly get passage in and you can be a part of the change.
Well, this is an important point because we say get involved, join up, but it's not always that simple because there are people putting roadblocks.
So we've got that up on the screen, Matthew. Just check that. You're happy with that? There we go, MatthewCamenzuli.com. So how do you get Conservatives into Rita's ghastly Victorian Liberal Party, for example?
Well, look, I'm a massive fan of Moira Deeming.
Yes, fantastic.
She's not in the Liberal Party.
No, she's not.
She's like you. She's like you.
Like
we
me.
need Matthew.
She's
we need
keen
Moira.
to see change, you see, inside of the Liberal Party. And she's got a lot of friends inside of the organisation too.
Good.
I mean, the best way to get in is probably go and see your most prominent former Liberal and they'll tell you how to do it, right? But the organisation has to stop expelling people. Now, there's an interesting motion that's going to come up on the agenda of the next State Council AGM, State Executive AGM at the end of the month in February. And that is, there's a motion to expel Alex Hawke, which you may or may not know about, and to bring me back into the party. But it's not just
there you
about
go. That's something. We're going to leave it there, but there you go. You've got that as well to contemplate. Libs, get involved with the Liberal and National parties because we need Conservatives out there because Peter Dutton must be the next Prime Minister, in my opinion, to save this country.